Good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. Welcome to May 6th, 2016. I'm Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss, and this is your PivotBoss Pre-Market Report. Here's a look at the daily time frame of the ES. What you see is much of what we've expected this entire time, which was once price got too far outside above value here, we were expecting a return to value, and then for perhaps price to continue chugging along toward the bottom of value. And so far, much of that has played out very nicely. You also see right here that change of bias occur around value. You can see bears defending the previous month's close on 2 successive days there, and now we're pushing to new lows after the non-farm payroll number has been released. Overall, rotations into value likely to continue to remain defended between 59 and 61 for a shot at perhaps seeing further weakness in the upcoming several days toward 2009 and 2000. Again, if we reach that zone, you're going to start coming toward the bottom end of this micro composite distribution here, and you may begin to see price then rotate back up. So right now, what we've mentioned this entire time, I keep mentioning it, we were looking for a push into value, and then we were looking for price to get stuck in the mud around value, and so far that's played out. So expect more short-term price discovery toward the bottom of this zone here over the upcoming days. Once we reach 2009, perhaps this LVN or even perhaps a little bit below it, we could be looking at a buy opportunity back up toward value. Let's take a look at the intraday time frame. Here's a look at the intraday, basically 5-day VPOC being offered, 44.5, and then price dropped into 2034. 2034 is a key level for us, going backward, and we kind of bounced here a little bit. But again, short term, this thing has kind of been pushing a little lower. Rotations higher have been defended, but it hasn't really been a very fluid market with great price structure. It's been very choppy, and it's yet to be seen if we're going to resolve after NFP later on today. So allow the market to play out a little bit, because if it remains a little choppy, you got to be very nimble. You got to be able to fade the edges. Right now, we're still yet to see how this thing's going to play out. But for the most part, we're below the previous session's low of 2039.5 here, and so far that area has been offered. So any rotations into that zone likely to be defended on first retest here for a continuation downward. If that's the case, we could be looking at primary bear targets down the way at 2030. And then, of course, 2026 is the previous month's low, along with the 100% ADR target, which is 2024. So that's about as far as we're looking down today if prices continue to push lower. So again, if 2040, 2039 remains offered, we could be looking at a primary target into 30 with a shot at seeing 2040, 26. Let's take a look at crude oil. Here's crude. This one right here has basically performed exactly as expected for the most part in terms of rotating off of our levels time and time again the way it did, finally pushing up, finding weakness off of 46.65, seeing initial support come into play. But one thing that threw a curveball here was how price just completely melted down after retesting 45.92 to 46. That zone right there completely rejected. You see price basically closed much lower, leaving behind a significant rejection tail, and now we're back below 43.85. This lower high right here and a failure to push through is a little suspect here and could imply that we're going to retest value very soon at 42.60, so keep that in mind. Overall, the price of crude has been quite bullish, and the expectation was that we're going to continue higher toward the next HVN, which is 49.08. I still am going to maintain that stance until proven otherwise, and we just have to see where price is going to find that support. And right now, it attempted to find it here. There was some oomph off of it, but again, it fell apart on the way down. So right now, we have to see, are we going to retest 42.60? Are we coming back toward 40s? How far do we pull back? I still believe that this thing has been in a solid bull trend here. You can see kind of a channel developing. So we may come all the way back into the LVN around 42s and then see a push to the top of that channel into 49s. So again, something to look for as we look forward over the next month. But right now, short term, not a whole lot to go by just yet. 43.85 is a major pivot, and right now that's what the market is kind of battling over, is that pivot. Let's look at an intraday. On an intraday basis, 5-day VPOC right here at 43.66. That's where price is currently sitting on top of. You can kind of see how price melted down in the previous session. We started very bullish. One thing we talked about in the trading room was, we had a big time overnight move and price opens near the top of that move. That's almost a surefire bet that we're going to pull back and run some of those initial stops of those late bulls, right? But to completely rotate all the way down and take everyone out to the gap, that's a big time move here, and it can't happen, obviously. So now we got to see this price continue to hold off of value here and bounce back up toward 44.66, because if so, that's where price kind of fell apart, and then we've seen a defense off that area in overnight trading. I think this LVN here, if retested in crude oil, could be a selling opportunity. So that's an early idea right now. Is if we do see a little bit of a bounce into that zone, we could be looking at a rotation back down. Okay, let's take a look at gold. Gold has performed also as expected for the most part. We were looking for stops to come out above 75s. They did. And then price hit our 50% expansion target at 13.0180. Now, one thing about that is that we rotated off that zone. And anytime you rotate off a zone like that, holding the pullback zone of 67.30 or 65.60 in that area, we were looking for bulls to come in and defend for a shot at squeezing further through those highs and making new highs. And so far, you can see how price has come into that area and seen buying on 2 different days here. We now have higher lows and higher highs for the day so far, heading into the rest of the session. And if there's any rejection of these levels here, we could be looking at a retest down below, because remember I mentioned that this is actually a much better area to defend. We haven't tested it quite yet, but closing above the previous session highs will imply that we could be looking at a move higher. Remember, once we resolve this pullback and continue higher, I'm thinking that we could be looking at 13.38 to 13.41 as the next major target zone, which could be hit next week. Any failure to hold above 65s rotates price right down to 36.5. Okay, let's take a look at the NQ. Here's a daily time frame of the NQ. This one has been perfect as well with regards to this top up here. We mentioned it right away in the trading room that was likely a rejection day that was going to lead to a move in the opposite direction. I kind of did not forecast how far we would go back. At first, I mentioned at least 44s, and then once price started to push through that area, it was apparent that we had 43.55 and 43s left up on the docket, and that's where we reached. We reached both of those levels, and now we're actually below 43s. So this is important here to see, because this is the key range we've been watching, 38.53 to 43s, midpoint at 40.76.75. And you can see this is going to be important, because if price cannot maintain a general acceptance above 43s, there's really nothing much left to test other than 40.76. I mean, there's a lot of clear air down below. So this is going to be important. Obviously, just trading below this zone right now doesn't mean that we're failing, because we got to see, do these bears right now get paid below the previous month's low? Because if not, you can flip right back on up and start heading back up toward the top of the range. Remember, the idea was that we would likely form some sort of trading range or distribution up top, and so far we did a lot of that and then ran some stops. So we got to see how this plays out now below 4,300. If we look at the intraday time frame, here's 4,300 right here. Price is kind of holding on that area, but look how sloppy it's been all week. I mean, very, very sloppy. I mean, this is very difficult to really trade sometimes. And of course, a lot of that is attributed to heading into NFP. NFP is behind us now, so it's still yet to be seen if we can see some nice movement here, some fluid activity in RTH. If not, I would suggest making it an early Friday and enjoying your Friday and your weekend, because getting caught in chop is not a way to close out a week, so just be careful. In this case right here, you can see overnight pivot offered, the previous session's low offered, value offered, so it's a clear downward price discovery phase, very, very quiet, although. So I would say any pullbacks right now, likely selling opportunities short term for rotations lower. Keep an eye on 4,300 in general, because if price reclaims that level by the end of the day, it could mean something heading into next week's trading. In terms of a downside primary target, something I'll be looking at here is 42.52.75. That's the primary bear target for the day. The 100% target is 42.36. So right now, again, with the way that price is kind of playing out, pullbacks are selling opportunities. and that could play out into 42.52 and 42.36 by the end of the day. All right, that's it for now. Let's see how this plays out the rest of the session. Good luck, trade well, and happy Friday.